Should my dog be eating carbohydrates? Now, this is a question I get asked a lot, and in order to answer, we first of all have to define what it is we mean by carbohydrates, because actually there's carbohydrates in plants too and in vegetables. So perhaps what we really mean is, should my dog be eating grain? And of course, one of the biggest turns in dog food in the last few years has been to offer grain-free dog food, because there are a lot of us out there that are realizing that actually grain might not be that beneficial for our dogs. Now, if you're somebody who makes either a home-cooked diet or raw food diet at home, you might also be asking yourself this question: should I be adding carbohydrates? Should I be adding grain into my dog's food? So first of all, I'm going to take grain, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about plants. So the dog is predominantly carnivorous. I'm just going to kind of explain a little bit that omnivore is actually, by definition, a word that we use to talk about a species, a whole species. So for instance, bears are an omnivorous species, because at one end you have the polar bears, who are completely carnivorous, and then you've got the koala bears or the panda bears, who definitely are not. So omnivores are actually, it's a word for a species, a whole set. It's actually very, very rarely used for one type of animal within a species. So we need to probably forget the word omnivore when we're talking about dogs. What we need to realize is that they're physiologically made up to be a carnivorous being. However, in my opinion, and this doesn't apply to dogs that have gut issues, of course, they can deal with plants. Now, I'm not talking about a huge amount of plants, but I think if we miss out plants completely, then in fact we are missing out, and our dogs are seriously missing out on some wonderful nutrition and wonderful antioxidants and all the great stuff that a lot of plants have in it. However, we'll come back to plants, as I said. So grain, the reason why your dog really doesn't need grain is because all creatures on this planet have, or at least the ones I've read about, they have only one hormone in their body to bring down blood sugar, okay, to deal with blood sugar levels, and that's insulin. Now, we have 14 that raise it. So we actually have a body, and so do dogs, that is far more geared up to dealing with a lack of food, because it can control its blood sugar and bring it up in so many different ways. And that body is not designed to have too much of something. So when you feed like refined grains and sugars, and it pushes the blood sugar level up, the dog's body, and the same for us, has trouble dealing with that. It only has that one hormone to deal with that. So we don't want to be looking at eating refined sugars at all, or giving them to our dogs. This goes for treats as well as dinners. And we want to be completely, if possible, avoiding grains like white rice, even brown rice. In fact, rice is out. There's so much arsenic within the production of rice now. It's out, really, for us and dogs. We definitely want to be avoiding wheat. Now, a lot of dogs have got wheat allergies as well now. So the only thing it really leaves is oats. Now, oats have been used for many, many years for dogs, and despite the fact that dogs have seemingly these days got more gut issues, it could just be that they're being diagnosed and noticed more, but some dogs will benefit from oats. So for instance, a dog that isn't putting any weight on, you need that dog to be having something like oats. Now, I'm not talking about a huge amount of oats, but some oats will encourage the dog to use that hormone of insulin to go into that state where they will lay some fat down. So for instance, I get asked a lot, why is my dog so thin on the raw diet? And so commonly it's lurchers, whippets, greyhounds, German shepherds, some Great Danes, but mostly those other breeds, and some others of course, but mostly those others. Now, they need to have something like oats, just a small amount in their diet, to encourage them to have a healthy weight when they're on something like a raw diet or a home-cooked diet. Now, if those dogs, or any dog, has imbalances in its gut bacteria, and especially if they've got that imbalance to the point of something called candida or a yeast problem, you don't want to be using that. So that's when, if your dog is not putting weight on and they have got a gut imbalance, that's when you probably need to speak to somebody and have like a recipe made up, or meal sheets, or just have some help and guidance so that you can help your dog to lay some fat and put some weight on and be a more balanced weight on this home cooked or raw diet. So that's grains. Then we move to plants, and I mentioned earlier that they are so beneficial. Phytonutrients are just amazing. If we are only feeding our dogs on raw meaty bones or mince and raw meaty bones, our dogs are missing out on, oh my God, so many good nutrients. Even if they've got yeast issues, we still need to be giving them things that encourage the prebiotics. So prebiotics feed the good bacteria. We need to put those in, because actually it's been shown that if you give the body what it needs to make the changes, the yeast problems will overcome far, far quicker than if you just try to starve and kill off the bad bacteria. So if you feed the good bacteria in your dog's body, you will find that these problems, they just overcome so much quicker. So I want to encourage all of us to think about adding plants. Now, I mean plants as in overground stuff. So I don't mean vegetables as in carrots, parsnips, anything that's underground, or potatoes. What I mean is things like kale, spinach, perhaps courgettes. I know asparagus is a good prebiotic. Berries are good prebiotics, so strawberries, cherries, blueberries. Obviously avoid anything that you know is toxic to dogs, and a quick Google search will give you hundreds of websites telling you what you shouldn't be feeding your dog in terms of vegetables, and there's hardly any actually anyway. But using overground stuff that gives prebiotics, and you don't have to give a lot. And also herbs. You know, plants are herbs, and herbs are so powerful. You know, we have vet herbalists because they're so medicinally powerful. They're awesome. So, you know, we need to be utilizing the power of plants within our dog's diet. And they're not this kind of carbohydrates that dogs don't need. Plants can be super, super beneficial. Parsley, for instance, as a herb, you know, you can grow that on your back patio or on your windowsill, so it's free even then, and it's like nature's multivitamin parsley. So plants can be super, super beneficial. I encourage you to try and use them within your dog's diet. And don't forget that what's right for one dog in terms of what type of plant they like or what type of plant would benefit them may not be the same for the next dog. But you have to start somewhere. Okay, so that would be my answer really, and I hope that this gives you some kind of idea on and why you might be wanting to use plants and why you want to be avoiding grains in a home prepared diet for dogs. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you again.